Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Volpe Creates Show. I am your host, Chris Volpe. This is the weekly show. Watch out there. Weekly talk show about gaming and creative technology. As always, we've got Pumpkin here. Baby's over there taking a little nap. And Mr. Lucas, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing okay. A little unfortunate on last Friday because my hard drive died, but other than that, I'm doing great.
Yeah, so we did not get a show out last week. And then we were going to have last week's guest, Justin from Game Arena, be on this week, and then he had an unexpected thing, and so we got a Cody Starcher for this week. How's it going,
Always,
Cody?
always the bridesmaid, never the bride. I know how this is.
Oh, you've been the bride before.
Lucas, the most important question of today's stream. What new hard drive did you get?
I went to Micro Center and I just pulled a random one off the shelf that was 2 terabytes because I was in a rush. But I think it was Seagate. But
Nice. Is it like a physical drive?
Yeah. It's a hard drive. It was really weird. Like I had a solid state with my Windows on it, and then a hard drive with my files. But my hard drive got corrupted my Windows install. Like it was weird. It would crash my computer when I would open Wi-Fi.
Yeah. That's super fun.
Yeah, no, it wasn't.
What are I haven't bought an SSD in a while. How are those looking price wise?
They went down quite a bit. Like I remember when I bought my first SSD for my computer, it was like I think $500. And I just bought one for my PS5 for like 150, I think. That's significantly better. I'm like, this is great.
You bought a 1 terabyte or a 2?
Two.
Your PS5.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah,
they had like a really good sale.
I was gonna say I bought a 1 terabyte and I think it was like 130.
Yeah.
What I got for the M.2.
Yeah.
Fancy one. You got to stick in there. You got to shove in your PS5.
Dude, it's so much nicer though. You have so many more games.
Oh yeah, like I mean the fact that you only get 680 usable megs on a hard drive, you're like, Sony, come on.
Well, and then it's really funny because then you go back and you look at like the old school memory cards, and it's like, oh yeah, this is like 8 megabits, and they're like, oh god, or I guess that would have been megabytes. You're just like,
yeah, totally. I've got a couple of the PlayStation, like the old memory cards still, and then you can think about like you can put like every PlayStation game on like a thumb drive nowadays, you know?
Yeah. I found my old school thumb drive from like the first one I ever bought in like middle school. That was like 512 megabytes. You're just like, oh, like you can't do anything anymore. Why do I still own you?
Yeah, it's kind of nice. At least right now, I don't know where we're gonna get with like 8K content, but like we seem to have hit a threshold where the size of software is not ballooning the way it used to.
Yeah.
So if you get like the iMac I'm on now has a terabyte drive, my laptop has a terabyte drive, and I've been perfectly fine with that.
Yeah.
But it's like one of those things where as soon as we go into, 4K is the default, and then eventually 8K, I'm sure will ramp up again.
Man, do we need 8K though? Like I was listening to a really good video about resolution. There's this YouTuber out there called Captain Disillusion who's like a VFX artist and goes through and looks at like viral videos and is like, this is faked and you can tell here, here, and here. But he was talking about resolution. He's like, yeah, it's been this weird arms race between the consumer market and like the movie theater market, because the movie market always has to be one step up, right? So it's like, okay, cool, well they went up to DLP, and then before you know it, like the iPhone can shoot in 4K, so it didn't matter anymore, and then like rising up to 8K, and it's like, do we need that? Like I think a 1080 screen at a movie theater is still plenty.
What was the movie? There was a movie that was shot in Columbus where not all of it, but a fair number of scenes were shot on I think it was like an iPhone 10 maybe, in 4K. And then I think some scenes in Avengers Endgame were shot in like using a 4K iPhone, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I was actually having this conversation, I don't know, a week or so ago. It's like you and I mean, I'm older than you, but we sort of grew up in sort of the same game vein, and we've sort of seen the consoles
just
and stuff.
Sit down the game river.
Yeah, just in our little kayaks going along. Um, but you go from like 8-bit NES, 16-bit SNES, then you started getting to 32-bit, and really you started to see it with the PlayStation and stuff, where the 3D
Yeah,
art, and now we're in. You look at stuff like Last of Us and whatnot, and you're just seeing some like really Red Dead 2,
yeah.
just amazing looking, like photorealism kind of stuff. But we really haven't seen a ton of interesting stuff in like AI. Like I think Last of Us Part Two does some really cool AI stuff, but like
Hmm.
I would rather, if we're gonna get these processors, like if we're gonna run it, let's say I don't know 120 hertz, 4K. All right, let's stay there for a while and see what we can use the computational power for on these machines to do other neat stuff, weather effects, physics effects, visual renderings. I don't know, like
Yeah,
let's just not. Everything doesn't have to be like the latest and greatest photorealism, which I
yeah,
realize sells well, but
yeah. Well, and that's the thing is like, yeah, it used to sell well, and I get that. Like when you compare, even like a PS2 game to a PS1 game, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, like, do we need that anymore? I think actually the Last of Us remake, what is it? They're calling it like Part One now, but like there's not really that big of a difference. Like, or I remember the first one where they did the HD remaster, and I'm just like, I like the old one better. Is with like Wind Waker HD, and it's like, yeah, sure, it's remastered and it's in widescreen now, but like, did we need a difference? Like, they chose an art style, and then for The Last of Us, that's even going for realistic, and I don't think the part one looks that much different. They just changed some of the assets. Um,
yeah,
like,
they
did
used
we need
two's
that?
engine.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. There was a great video I watched a couple weeks ago about the Metal Gear franchise, and in particular,
Rip.
Metal Gear Solid One and Metal Gear Solid Two, and Metal Gear Solid Two looks like way better than one, like
Hmm.
way better. And a lot of that was just creative use of assets and like art design,
Yeah.
like just being very, very cautious how you can build a model. And Nintendo's notoriously genius at this. Like they
Yeah.
don't use the most sophisticated models, you could say, but their art direction is always astounding. And that's what keeps them looking good. I think Wind Waker, particularly the remake of Wind Waker, when they were able to actually make like a nice HD,
Hmm.
so it's kind of like built for modern TVs. Um, that game's gorgeous.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
It
I.
got shit on when it first came out,
Oh
but
god,
it's
I was so
gorgeous.
excited for it. Like this was just some really cool. Given maybe I was in the prime demographic of like being a kid when the original one came out, but I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah, this is cool, colorful game. Like this is actually interesting to me. That was my first ever Zelda game, was Wind Waker, because I didn't have like an N64 as a kid. So yeah, the GameCube was my
that's a
first
great
like.
game. That's a great game. That's a great Zelda game to start from. There's
Yeah.
a lot of like nuance and like Easter eggs and stuff that I assume you probably didn't get,
Oh yeah,
because
no.
it like harkens back to like a lot of Zelda lore. Um, but I think that's a really solid Zelda game to
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
start the
Well, and it's
franchise.
super going back and revisiting the HD remake recently. Like it's really interesting because it's so expressive, and I think in a way I think that none of the other ones really tried to. Like, well, I think Wes, even on like our Slack, his thing is the Wind Waker link like drinking coffee, and
Yeah,
it's just like, yeah, like he wakes up and he's like making these faces and he's all expressive and stuff in a way that like I think they've tried to do in some of the other games. Like I know I tried to play through a little bit of Skyward Sword, which was like really cool, but they're like trying to make him expressive and, oh, look at him as a character, but like he doesn't show emotion because they tried to go for that like realism, right?
yeah,
So it was just kind of came off like uncanny because it was like the Wii age, they upgraded it, but it's Wii age models and graphics and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know. I think Wind Waker, just with the art style and talking about like art direction versus graphics or whatever, I think that's the great example of like, and even the HD remake is cool. That's the version that I'm playing because it's nicer, it runs smoother, et cetera, et cetera. But man, like
yeah.
just it loses the contrast of like the original one that they were trying to do to make it run on that hardware, but it made it look, I think, better in the long run. Um,
Sure, sure. Yeah, Wind Waker is one of those games that like I've never beaten it, so I'm like, before I die, if I'm on my deathbed, like I need to, because I have replayed the same like the first like same 5 hours or whatever of that game
yeah,
countless times.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but I definitely, and I know what the twist is, so gonna kind of be lost on me. But I definitely want to finish it sometime. Because yeah, and I think that like this might, I know this is heresy for a lot of people, but like I really just I am underwhelmed by what Breath of the Wild looks like. There's just
Mm,
something I feel like it feels very like gritty and like there's always like this haze over it, which I
hmm
think has to do with the fact that it's open world and in particular the Wii U, but like the Switch just doesn't have the power to run like a fully realized open
Yeah.
world like that. And so I think they have to cover a lot of it. And they do it well, but I just think it gives it this weird like dithered look that I'm not really a big fan of. Um
Yeah. I think the appeal to Breath of the Wild, because I've tried to go back to that game a couple times, and like it's still great. It's still super cool, but it's like I don't know, man. I feel like every Zelda game, if you don't play it at launch, you start to lose something. Because I think that they do some really cool things that then the rest of the industry tries to like, implement over top of, like try to see what they can do to one up it. So even Breath of the Wild, like that's a really cool game, and the appeal was like, holy shit, I'm playing this game on a handheld, like on a flight to Boston, I think, right? Because we ended up getting like 3 Switches right before PAX. So I think Katie, Laura Lee, and I all had Switches like right
mhm.
after, like a week before PAX to go play Zelda or whatever on. But yeah, man, I remember like laying in the hotel like room, just like everybody else was asleep, and I was just like, I just want to play Zelda. This is kind of awesome. So like in that case, like yeah, I didn't care how it looked. It was on a 720p screen. It was like far
Yeah.
away on a little portable, which I think is where like the magic of that game came true for me. But yeah, even like going back and revisiting it or trying to like, you know, a lot of Switch games I wouldn't play like on my screen because like I just need it in that smaller, like the pixel resolution doesn't matter as much. So the games look better and run a little better because they're not trying to output the 1080p or whatever. But even then,
Sure.
like trying to go back and now we look at games like Elden Ring that pretty much were like, hey, what if Dark Souls Breath of the Wild? But then you try to go back to Breath of the Wild from that and you're just like, oh god, like what do you mean my run button and my jump button are on the opposite ends of the button? Like, oh, like there's just some things in there that like they were
Yeah.
messing around with, they tried, and it's like, yeah, this got so much better. And that's how I felt when I went back to Ocarina of Time. Like I didn't play that for the first time until I had like the 3DS remake like 5 or 6 years ago. And like the game was cool. I liked it. But it was definitely one of those things where I'm just like, yeah, that was a game. Like I can
Yeah.
see why it's important, but it's not the best game in the world. But you talk to somebody who played that when they were like 7 and that was that was their game. They got it with their N64 and they're like, yeah, it's the greatest game ever. So it's just that weird,
I
like you
was
go
I was
back.
one of those. That
Yeah,
game
see?
is I played that game a lot again, but that was also back in the day when like you got 6, maybe 8 big games in a year.
Yeah.
Now we get like 6 big games. Well, now COVID's kind of disrupted it, but for a
Yeah.
while we were getting some pretty big games like every couple of months. Um and
It
you
was
just
even
can't.
Yeah, it was even quicker than that. Like you hit holiday season and there's a new game. There's like 2 or 3 games you want every week. And it's like, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah. Well, and jumping back to just because we were kind of talking about cool games, but and I see Yua was on here, but we started playing No Man's Sky.
mhm.
Uh, how do sweatshirts work, Cody? There we
You're doing great.
go.
I left mine down here. My basement is so cold. I've made a
Yeah,
mistake.
but oh, I lost my little doodad. But I hadn't played No Man's Sky at all,
Hmm.
and I know about like the basic stuff on it, and I think that is a great example of a game. I think it looks good. It doesn't look great by today's standards. But just like it is a marvel of mathematics and what you
Yeah.
can do with like game design. Like just the fact that you can visit, I look, it was like 18 quintillion worlds or something stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And like the thing that blew my mind was like getting the weapon that lets you like carve into the ground and like you can
Hmm.
remove the ground and stuff. I was like, wait, you can go to entire planets, zoom around, and like carve them out and build them up. Like that is nuts. That is
Yeah.
nuts.
Yeah, man.
Uh,
That game is something special. So that was the and I can go into actual like if this is game dev talk, right? I can get into it because this is interesting for me. But that game, hooked me like from the beginning. And it was nice because I was in the industry, so they're making these claims, and I'm just like, yeah, okay, like sounds great, whatever, Sean. It's clear that you are a programmer who doesn't like talking in front of cameras, and now they've put you like in front of like Conan O'Brien and said, go talk about your game, have fun. So yeah, I definitely saw through kind of some of the over promises of that game. But no, I bought the collector's edition at launch and platinumed that game, like pre-patches. Just went in. That was one of those games that like you just kind of get in, zone out. Like I'm going through different planets and I'm flying my spaceship and I'm finding like really derpy dinosaurs and I'm calling them like McNugget because I decided to do an entire like solar system based off of McDonald's because why not? And that game was something real cool. But
Yeah.
it goes into the deeper. So we can talk game design for a second because I love this. There's this term called Bartle's taxonomy, which I know you and I have talked about a lot. Which was essentially used. It was like developed in like the I think late '90s, early 2000s, and essentially this dude named Bartle was watching MMOs and how they would progress and identified like four types of players, right? So you have like the achievers, who are people who like, hey, here's a trophy, here's a obstacle I have to overcome, and I gain enjoyment from this. You have socializers who are like, hey, I want to play this game with my friends. I just want to hang out, have a good time, and meet new people. You have killers, which are, hey, I want to go in and ruin everybody else's fun times, and that makes it fun for me. And then you have explorers, which is where I kind of self-identify on that taxonomy spread, who are just like, hey, I want to get into this world. I want to explore it. I don't care. Like, if I die, I'm not trying to do anything. I just kind of want to get lost in a world and see what I can do to break it. Um, and so, yeah, No Man's Sky, like, hit that explorer taxonomy for me so hard. Because it's just like, yeah, I'm just flying around in a spaceship and there's kooky aliens. And I don't even think they had the factions in yet where you could go in and talk to things, or they definitely didn't have a lot of the features that are in now.
Yeah.
But just this cool, like, I am a lone space ranger going out and checking out planets and scanning stuff, and that game was cool. The game was really cool.
Yeah, this is it's it's enjoyable and definitely again since I just started, I'm not sure when all the things were
Mhm.
implemented over the past 6 or 7 years or whatever.
Yeah,
But I get the feeling that it's a much different game now, even just sort of through the vibe and the general gameplay sense than it was when it first started. Which I think in some senses is really cool, but then in others, I think they needed to make some changes just because they realized a game where you're flying around by yourself
yeah,
out in the ether is maybe not going to be compelling enough. Um, but man, it's got all sorts of cool stuff, and I think it's really neat. And you and I've been playing. He posted that he's a space pirate on
yeah.
Twitch here. Yeah, he's a space pirate. I know he found a ship and he was excited to sell it
Nice.
uh, to the whatever the embassy or whatever that thing is called.
I'm trying to
Um,
think. Yeah, man, like day one, I know none of the base building stuff was there. Um, I think there was like a space station you could go um, to get like weapon upgrades, and I think maybe I don't even think you could sell ships at the time. I think you could buy ships, but you can only have one ship at a time instead of now there's like a freight hangar, isn't there? Like you can get like a
yeah,
giant spaceship
you
to
can get
store your
like a
stuff.
freighter now. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I thought it was cool because like it just yeah, if you're just wanting to check out the world and you don't necessarily need to have a challenge or challenge not the right word, but like specific goals.
Hmm.
Like the mission log will like pop up occasionally, but it's almost like an afterthought. It's
Yeah,
kind of like over there and isn't really that useful. But even stuff like I thought it was cool. I went and checked out a cave once, and then I was like, I'll spend like 30 seconds a minute checking this thing out, and then like 5 minutes later, I'm like completely lost in
yeah,
this like cave structure, and I was just like, I need to get the hell out of here, and I just drilled my way from the cave up
yep,
out into the world, and I was like, okay, here I am, and then I called my ship to come get me.
yeah,
Uh, and I just thought it was like cool. Like I didn't have to weave my way back through all these tunnels or whatever
yeah,
to
yeah,
get back to the opening. I just made my own opening. I was like, all right, I'm
yeah.
good.
You get cool jetpacks. That was that game and Sea of Thieves, which is another one of those kind of fun explorer games that I just played solo and absolutely got wrecked anytime another ship came by. But
Yeah.
they both have the same like kind of physic bugs where like you can kind of like do like skipping and stuff with the jetpacks. So yeah, that was super fun to just go flying around the world and like, all right, cool, I'm super lost or I'm super far away. I'm about to die of like radiation poisoning. So like I think it was like what in No Man's Sky you would run and then you would have to melee and jump at the same time and you just go like
Yeah.
flying. Yeah. Like, those are fun. Like in just the using the world and the tools around you.
Yeah. I think that harkens back to in the 80s and 90s in technology in general. And this is one of the things I think people, when they think about the 80s fondly, this is one of the things they think about is there was just this sense of discovery and like optimism. You know, there's obviously there were issues in the world, but like technology was this thing that was going to like solve problems and do cool things. And in game design, there was a lot of just like, well, what if I created Sims? What if we just created a world where people just walk around and live, and we can create houses
Yeah.
and whatnot, and all that kind of stuff. And the indie space still has some of those experiences, but you don't see them. Most of the games now are very like compact experiences, generally linear narrative ones, that don't really focus on a lot of like exploration or giving you like a weird physics sandbox to like mess around in.
Yeah.
And so I think it's cool to experience No Man's Sky. I'm looking forward to going back and playing it more. And probably platinum it. I don't know. Is it a hard plat? Can you even platinum it now? Is it even
I
possible?
I don't know why you wouldn't be able to.
I don't know. You know,
I mean,
sometimes you can't like after enough updates, you just can't do
yeah.
certain ones.
No, I'm sure you could because I don't think it was anything like super crazy. It was just like, oh hey, go like upgrade this thing or I don't even know if you had to because back when I played it, the whole point, and I don't know if this is still even the core conceit of the game, but it's like get to the center of the galaxy. Like you have to get to the
Yeah.
center of the galaxy. That's your end goal. That's where you need to be. I don't even think that was a trophy because I don't think I ever did that, and I still got the platinum for that game.
Oh, okay.
Which is crazy. Yeah, it was just a lot of like explore stuff, like tag a bunch of these different animals. So I mean, like it was repetitive, right? Like I've had my fair share of repetitive trophies. I was just talking to somebody about when we were hooked on Black Flag, and I like grinded out like the 40 hours of the multiplayer just to get the one trophy for that.
Yeah, dude, I forget what it was because we did the multiplayer stuff together. I think it was something with like the whale or something, and it just never showed up. I just
Yeah,
couldn't get it to show up after like
yeah,
hours and hours. And I was like, screw it. Because that's one of those games I'm like at like 98% complete or something. Um,
yeah.
and you know what? No Man's Sky, kind of reminded me of a little bit in a weird way is when you and I were trying to do PT, and
Oh
we're
yeah,
like, oh, you got to get to the center of the galaxy, and it's like, oh, you got to get out of the house by doing this thing, and we just could never
yeah.
figure out how to get out of the house.
Yeah. We tried to like look it up, and it's like, oh, you need to talk into the camera, and you need to do all these things, and like,
Yeah,
yeah, it was just you, Tom, and I, like in our office at Dublin, just like screaming at the PlayStation, like what was it, like Martha or whatever the name is of that ghost chick,
yeah,
to try
yeah.
to
Are
get
we
that thing to
supposed to say
launch.
something? Uh, yeah, that was fun, but it was frustrating. And that and Ducktales, man, that one almost killed me.
Yeah, DuckTales was rough.
But uh, all right, Cody. So one of the things that what we got? Yeah, we got time. We just finished year 10 of GDEX.
We did.
Uh, it was a interesting. I don't know what you would call it as a year. It was a year. Um, but yeah, that was a decade of working on this project. Got it over the finish line despite COVID and other things. But I figured it could be fun to reminisce about GDEX for a little bit. We haven't announced anything for year 11. We got to figure out the details on that. Actually,
Yeah.
I'm not wearing a GDEX shirt, but I'm wearing one of the shirts from one of our vendors. You probably can't see it. It's a Game Boy
Yeah.
schematics shirt. Actually, funny enough, Taylor Doolittle, who ran that booth,
Yeah.
apparently his board game is doing pretty well. He
Is it
released a
really?
board game. Yeah, I bumped into coming out of Kroger. I bumped into Adam from um, Tabletop Cafe,
Hmm.
and he was saying that yeah, he left the shirt design world and focused on making board games. Apparently, it's doing really well. He's working on a second one.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, Taylor's good people. So I guess a little bit of background for the audience is we had in GDEX, I think it was 2019. Was it
Yeah,
2019 that we had him? So GDEX loved to support small businesses, right? We wanted to grow up Columbus. We wanted to kind of help out a lot of the other small businesses. So we tried to keep everything to Columbus if we could. And so we were kind of hopping around different printers because we'd have like small business printers that we would be supporting, and then be like, oh hey, I got like a job at Procter and Gamble, gotta go. It's like, okay, cool, time to find another one. But Taylor was really cool. He had a company called Inked and Screened, and they would come in and actually do like the screen prints live, like in front of you, was their whole thing. So they had this giant booth, and people could walk up and go like, "Hey, I want the GDEX shirt." And we had like one official color that you could get that in. But the cool thing is that they had a bunch of really cool designs, like what Chris is wearing, and I've got a Missing No one from like Pokemon Red. But you could come in and screen print it, and like, yeah, okay, cool. I want that design on like a green shirt. You're like, yep, I got you. I'm like, there we go. But yeah, that's super cool. He left the following year to do the board game stuff, and that's super exciting that like his board game's doing well. And yeah,
yeah, yeah. I think he's
cool.
got a Kickstarter coming out. I'll spread the word
Yeah.
when it comes out. But yeah, so we did year 10 in GDEX. How'd it go?
Yeah. This was the year. So GDEX stopped being my full-time gig a couple years ago. And this was the one where it's just like, oh God, I can't manage this anymore. So yeah, it was definitely, it was bittersweet for me. So this was the year that I announced that I kind of am stepping away from my organization role of GDEX. Purely because I just did not have the time anymore with the full-time job and teaching and kind of everything else going on. But I think it was cool, like a lot of cool faces. We had a really cool partnership with Origins this year and doing some really cool things with them. Just having that presence on the show floor. I know Extra Life, our charity partners, raised like beat their score. I think they hit 10,000, I think it was pledged.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
um yeah, like it was a really awesome year, and it was good to, always see people. Particularly last year obviously was our first year back, with 2020 being the GDEX TV year. But it's always nice to kind of have everybody in Columbus and get to see them and get to catch up with, old friends who I barely get to see anymore. So yeah, it was a cool year. It was super cool.
I'm hoping that we're caught in this. We talked a little bit about this both on the show and we talked about it at our debrief meeting this week. But just events in general are kind of caught in this weird place where it's like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. It's like
Yeah.
if you have a vaccine and mask policy, some people will be happy, others won't. If you don't have a vaccine or mask policy, some people will be happy, others won't. Um, and so I'm hoping the next year will be, I guess, as long as we don't get like monkeypox or something, um, that will be more or less back to normal, and we can just have everybody come and be a part of it, feel comfortable, and whatnot. But I think overall, I mean, besides it almost killing me this year, I enjoyed myself. I think we had a
Yeah.
lot of great stuff. I'm still like, just personally, I'm super jazzed that we had Jonathan Blow come. I got to talk to
Yeah.
him. Like, that was super exciting. I thought we had it's the one. It really is like the one time where I was like, God damn it, we should have recorded that session. Like
Yeah. The fact that we couldn't.
we always record the main sessions at least, and sometimes we record others, and we just didn't record it this year. And I was like, that was fucking stupid. I should have
Yeah.
done it. I was
Yeah,
trying
well,
to
and
keep
that
things
was.
easy and breezy, you know.
Yeah, and that was your hit list for a while. Like you had Jonathan Blow on like the top of your speaker list for
Oh,
years because
yeah,
yeah,
totally.
yeah, we saw him at PAX together. He did the
Yeah,
keynote like right after The Witness came out and talked about like a bunch of games and how they inspired him and stuff. So just the fact that we finally kind of got him in was all right, awesome. This is great.
yeah.
I wish
He
I
was,
I couldn't go, but yeah, I think
it
sounds
was a
really good
great
from what I heard.
it was a great conversation, and
Yeah.
like he was cool, and even the PAX talk, we talked about it before he even committed, and we were kind of talking on the phone. I was like, I just want to be honest with you, and like we can talk about whatever you want at the show, but he's like, I saw your PAX talk, and he was like, oh yeah, I remember that. I was like, and like it was fine, but like when I came to your talk, like I wanted to hear about your thought process, why you make the
Hmm.
design decisions you make, like what you're trying to accomplish with your projects or whatever. And your talk was like, it was like 5 games that he thought were really interesting.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's neat, but like you didn't work on any of those games. So like none of them have
Yeah.
anything to
Yeah.
do with, they're just games you happen to like. It's like, Chris's 5 favorite movies or whatever. Like that's cool. But, I don't want to invite Steven Spielberg and have a conversation about the 5 movies he thinks are interesting. I want to know about why he's making his choices. So that actually kind of came up as a point of conversation uh, on what we were going to talk about for this year.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was really cool. Yeah, I still have. I'd love to get Hideo Kojima is another one if I could get him to come to GDEX. I have a feeling that's going to be a real hard get, but
Yeah. Something
um,
tells me.
you never know. Neil Druckmann, I think would be cool. Troy Baker, Ashley Johnson would be really cool. Um, Corey Barlog could be cool.
Yeah.
Just talking about the re-envisioning of God of War into a more sort of mature
Yeah. Yeah. You watched
project.
the documentary, right?
Yeah.
Raising
Hmm.
Kratos. Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
And the thing is,
Like,
I hadn't played any of the other God of Wars, so I came in
oh yeah.
totally fresh off the boat on the latest one. But I
That's it.
enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, that's a good one to come in fresh. When God of War 3 came out, I went back and replayed the other ones. And like you could tell that like those were games of their times, right? And I love, and so for those who haven't watched the documentary, there's a you can find it on YouTube. PlayStation released it for free, called Raising Kratos, and it's about how he made the shift for God of War 4 and decided to reboot it, and let's give him a kid. But I love that story of like, when he was, and I think he was like creative director on God of War 2 or something like that. Like he had a
Yeah,
major hand in a couple of them.
and then he bounced over to work at was it Crystal Dynamics on
I'm
Tomb
not sure.
Raider? I
Oh,
think
yeah, yeah.
yeah, he worked on
Interesting.
the Tomb Raider reboot. I don't think he was creative director on that, but he was like involved in it in some way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's cool because in the documentary he talks about like, yeah, when I was working on these first games, I was, in my 20s and like, I was just angry and you see that reflected in the game. It's like, oh, vengeance and I'm gonna kill everything and we're gonna add in sex mini games because why not? It's 2000s and let's go. And then you compare that to when he came back for God of War and it's this, hey, Kratos has a kid because Corey had a kid, and hey, like how he kind of used his life to show like the change of Kratos too. Like that was a really good game for the first start of that, because definitely, I mean, again, it's another one of those going back where at the time you're like, yeah, this is a cool, like it's the 3D kind of beat 'em up style game, the original God of Wars. And they were cool for their time and they're fun, but definitely like story is like whatever. They're just like, yeah, hand wave. It's a thing. He's mad. He's got to go kill gods. Whatever. And moving that into what God of War is, and then Ragnarok, which comes out. See, this is the crazy thing about not being in the industry anymore, is that I don't follow like game releases nearly as closely as I do anymore. And so I know God of War comes out this year, but I have no idea when. So I'm gonna be really excited when like they're suddenly just like, oh yeah, by the way, God of War came out. Here you go, have fun. Like, I think Spider-Man came out on PC today. I think I know that. I don't know. Saints Row comes out soon, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Ragnarok's what I think November 11th. I think.
Is it? Yeah.
So our 9th, something like that. It's relatively soon.
Yeah.
And then yeah, Last of Us remake is going to come out on PC, which is
Yeah.
it's a pretty big jump. Sony
Yeah.
Sony's a pretty conservative company. They tend to keep their IPs close to the chest, but
They've been doing
they're
a lot more PC ports though.
just you gotta do it, man. The money is there.
Well, and that's the other cool thing too, is like with PC. So like, I'm watching your face right now on my ultra wide monitor, and so playing games in ultra wide has been kind of really interesting and something that you can't do on consoles anymore, or ever. I think you might have been able to do it on like the Series X. I don't know. What do you think about
Yeah,
that?
I mean, I actually I noticed on No Man's Sky, there's a bunch of settings that are obviously more
Yeah.
PC settings, like field of views and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. The game that sold me, and I should not have done this, but big surprise, whatever. But I was talking to former guest of the show, Scott Lewandowski, because him and I were equally stoked about Cyberpunk 2077.
Mm-hmm.
And they started to release like ultra wide footage of that game, and you could get on YouTube and watch it in ultra wide. And like that game, I was just like, yeah, okay, I need to buy this on PC right now. Like this is so good. Um, but yeah, no, it's super cool. And now I've got a Steam Deck, which is cool. That makes me very upset I'm not in the industry anymore, because I guess we could go super inside baseball. I don't know
Talk
to
about
the
whatever you want.
audience. Yeah. We
Before you
had
jump in there though, real fast, did you play Cyberpunk after was it the 1.5 patch or whatever?
I booted it up and restarted like the first mission.
Okay.
But that was another game that I was so lost in the world, and I love the tabletop RPG of Cyberpunk. I was so lost in the world on just exploring Night City. Like I did not give a shit that that game crashed every 30 minutes. Like that just became like
It
part of like,
sure
all right,
did.
cool. Like I'm gonna get up, I'm gonna get a drink, I'm gonna go to the bathroom while it's rebooting, and then I'm back into it. And yeah, that game,
Yeah.
another platinum pre-patch launch, and I don't
Oh
do
man.
that nearly as much anymore. But dude,
Yeah,
that game's good.
I I haven't played it either. It's been on my list to
Yeah,
because I'm like this close to platinum it again.
yeah,
And so I want to go back since now people are saying like it's at the point it should have been
yeah.
at launch. It still isn't what they sort of alluded to it being,
Mm.
but at least it's, but I have a feeling that they're going to keep giving it some love. And maybe in another year or so, it could be something like really, really special. And I guess the mod community is doing all sorts of cool stuff to it. Um,
I haven't
so
played it on PC in a long time. I've switched. I've talked about PC gaming a lot recently. That's kind of the one that I'm kind of paying attention to, and purely because I have the Steam Deck, which is awesome. But yeah, like playing
that
Cyberpunk
fills the
again.
Vita hole in your heart.
A little bit. Like I've got a bunch of indie games on there, like Infernax I just downloaded to play that one through. That's by the devs who did Just Shapes and Beats, and it's like their take on a modern Castlevania game, which is really cool. I'm trying to think. Oh, I just replayed. So I went back and played some old indie games. I replayed Battle Block Theater by the
Mm,
Behemoth. Oh,
yeah.
dude, that game is special. Like Stamper coming in and doing all the narration. You're just like, oh, it's so good. But now the Steam Deck is awesome because again, it's that going back to our earlier conversation with like Breath of the Wild, where it's just like, yeah, like I'm playing Elden Ring on a portable, sitting on my couch, like hanging out with my wife, just like fighting a dragon. Like this is great. I love this.
Yeah. Just
Um,
fighting a dragon, honey. I'll be there in a
yeah,
second.
I mean, kind of. She'll like see me. She'll be like, "All right, cool. I'm gonna go to bed." And I'm like, "Sweet. I need to like tackle this troll like 3 more times. Hold on. Like, I've
Yeah.
almost got him. I need to kill
This
this thing."
troll's acting the fool.
Yep. Yep. But no. So the Steam Deck stuff is really cool from like a games industry perspective because I remember, we were. I'm trying to think how much we can talk about this. Uh, we were registered PlayStation developers, and one of those platforms was the Vita. And we spent a good chunk of time, and I tried to make it a little side project to see if I could get our demo to run on a Vita, purely because I wanted to be able to like, hey, you talk about when you go to shows and like you do like elevator pitches or whatever, but like I'm walking around, I'm talking to people, let's say I happen to run into a publisher or something like that, like, oh yeah, I do this game, here it is, here you go, play it. Like, and that I think is so much easier to do now with Steam Deck because it's just, yeah, make a Linux port of it and get it to run, and there you go, you're good to go. So like the idea that like had the Steam Deck come out 5 years ago, we could have put like a demo
Mm-hmm.
build of our game on it and just brought
Yeah.
it to shows, and there we go. We've got literally, we don't need a booth anymore. I've just got it in my backpack. It's like, oh yeah, you want to try it? Here you go. And that's cool. That's really
Yeah.
cool.
I
Like,
I I do think it's cool that Valve is continuing to try. They've
mhm,
had some duds on the sort of console hardware side. But they keep putting money into it. They keep trying new ideas. Um, and yeah, I mean, they have such obviously just the Steam platform
yeah.
got so much content. Like the content is there. It's how do you create a good delivery mechanism for it? And it seems like the Steam Deck has been, you know, pretty successful.
I mean, it's impressive that you can run these like new age AAA games. Like Elden Ring was running better on the Steam Deck at launch than it was the PC because it didn't have to deal with like the Windows bloatware and kind of all that. So they like optimized it for the Steam Deck and went, here we go. Like, cool. It works
Yeah.
great. There's no stuttering. Like it runs at 30. Like don't get me wrong, it's not like I'm playing it at like super high frame rate. It's like 30 FPS on a 720 screen, but like it holds up. It's pretty cool. Spider-Man just got verified. I'm trying not to buy that because I have too many games to play. But swinging through New York on the
See,
Steam
that
Deck,
that's
that sounds
just such
cool.
a, maybe just because like it's such a, I'm an old man or whatever, but like I literally, so I'm moving in a couple weeks, and I just bought, I'm treating myself for
Yeah.
whatever excuse, whatever rationalization I'm gonna make, and I just bought a 77-inch OLED, uh, and I'm like,
To put next to your other OLED.
yeah, well, I'm selling my other OLED,
Uh,
um, but I just can't imagine wanting to play something like Spider-Man or Elden Ring like on a small, like in essence a phone, a
oh
portable
man.
phone, like as opposed to a nice big screen. Like,
Yeah, I think for me, and this is just like we can go into history stuff for a bit. So I've always been more of a handheld gamer. Um, because as a kid, like I had split up parents, and so I had every other weekend an hour drive to dad's and an hour drive back home. And so like I lived a lot of my child years in a car. So playing
mm,
games on portable became my way to play games because that's just how I
yeah,
broke the
that
time or
makes a
going
lot
on
of
road
sense.
trips or airports or whatever. So and even then, I'm playing them a lot there. So it's like, all right, cool. I'm gonna get into Pokemon, and then I'm just gonna play that on the couch, like while mom's watching TV or something. I didn't have to fight for like, oh, I want to use the TV to play my video games or whatever. It's just like, cool, I can just play this and go. So I like my console games. But honestly, I'm finding now more and more I'm doing console stuff to play multiplayer with friends. And when I really want to like dive into the story, it's that it's the Vita, it's the Steam Deck where I can really just sit here, I can get engulfed in a world while just kind of chilling, like chatting with my wife idly. She can still have on like, we'll watch like Bob's Burgers or South Park, or she'll do something or want to watch something, and again, I could just hang out, like we can kind of do our little parallel play
Yeah,
thing, and it makes life much easier that way. And like that's what I loved the Wii U for the same reason. Like the Wii U, I almost exclusively played in handheld mode. The Switch, the only time the Switch gets hooked up to a dock is when I play Smash Bros with a bunch of people. Other than that, it's exclusively played in handheld. Yeah, that's
but
just my preferred way to kind of play games.
yeah, I mean, I get that. Like, there was always, this. I mean, it's the reason girlfriend reviews exist, is because it's
Yeah,
always like that sound and stuff that's coming from the TV when you're around, and you keep hearing
yeah,
like the menu sounds or whatever. Um, and I remember like Tina's takeaway from The Witcher. Like, there's a few like songs she liked. The Black Flag, she liked the sea shanties,
yeah, yeah.
that you could hear in the background. But in The Witcher 3, it was the cross dressing elf, the elf tailor.
Yep.
Like that was her big take. That 200-hour game, and her
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
takeaway that she liked was the cross dressing elf that creates the clothes for you.
yeah.
Um, but yeah,
That's
what are you
funny.
playing multiplayer wise?
Yeah, so I'm going through a lot of stuff. GTA has been like one of those like go to let's just go play some Havoc, and
Yeah.
I got into that really hard like last summer, and like full disclosure, we found glitches to just do some to like get money significantly easier and faster without having to pay Rockstar. So that made it a lot more fun when you could just get fuck you money and go buy dumb cars and whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
that's gonna go to PUBG is still super huge in my group. Like we play PUBG. That group plays like almost every night. And then actually yesterday we were playing through Borderlands Remastered, which I played for like 20 minutes and then I had to hop off and do some
Oh,
stuff.
dude,
But
I want to get back into Borderlands 3 so bad.
oh
Like,
man,
I've heard they've made some great
yeah,
improvements to it.
yeah.
Um,
Borderlands 3 was great. I've only played like an hour of Wonderlands, but I really enjoyed kind of the conceit of that game.
Kyle
Um,
Kyle Yona just joined. He said I heard Rockstar and was summoned.
that checks out.
Um,
Yeah.
what's up, Kyle?
Kyle, give
Uh,
me GTA Online stuff. Slash, don't tell your company that I'm not buying shark cards.
Kyle, give us all the stuff. Give us the inevitable Red Dead GTA 6 crossover experience.
Yeah,
Um,
Jim
yeah,
Jim
oh,
Marston.
you should we did for our game club game, we did Fall Guys.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
You should have joined us for Fall Guys. That was fun.
yeah.
That was the
Fall
first time I
Guys
ever
is
played it.
my yeah. Fall Guys is my brand of chaos. We played that for a little bit too. We kind of jumped back in when they did their because they made it free and
Yep.
relaunched it. But yeah, we got really into that right when it launched because it was a PS Plus game. So we played that a lot. But yeah, it was super cool for me, and it's super nice. So I actually just had one of my really close friends from high school just moved back, closed on his house yesterday, and came back to Columbus. But that was kind of for me, and why console gaming became like the multiplayer place for me is that was how I got to like hang out with him. When he'd be like, I mean, he was stationed in Spain. He was in the Navy, so he was in Spain for a while. He'd be my favorite was he got stationed in San Diego. And so California military time is the same as Columbus startup time, which means that when I would, finally kind of finish working and wanted to sit down and play some games at like 10, 11 o'clock, that would be like his like just after dinner time and we'd be on playing games too. So yeah, it was a super cool way to just like connect with him over some of those games, and like my best friend Matt and I play all the time. So yeah, I don't know, like that's the you get the connections from that end. But Fall Guys is a
Um,
cool one for that.
was it recently Matt's birthday? Right? Is it?
Today? Yeah,
Oh, today.
yeah,
Happy
today.
birthday, Matthew.
Yeah. Gotta go hang
Um,
out with him after this.
Sweet. So, you uh are, I guess, project manager world, which is more or less what you did, besides the 18 other things you did at
Yeah,
Multivarious. But how's project management treating you?
it's good. It's good.
Are you a
So
certified black belt yet? Six
no,
Sigma
not
black
yet.
belt?
Not yet. So I'm officially a as of I guess today it got fully announced at my company, but yeah, I'm a product manager now, which is super cool. So I think I'm technically an APM for whatever, but yeah, I'm out in product world. It's really interesting. It's really different than so my background was I was in the games industry with Chris and Multivarious as a producer for years. And it's really interesting how product management changes from that because it's so project management. I kind of prided myself as like I was tactical, I was in the trenches. Like there were plenty of times that I'd be like working with Tom and like he'd be working on scripts and I'd be actually messing with Unity and getting stuff going and getting the game plans together. And so very much like I've been handed my orders, let's go, let's make sure they execute, let's get them done well. And now I'm in the spot where like it'd be more equivalent to like a creative director on a project where like, hey, we want to hit this ROI, we want to hit this this key outcome, go figure out how to do it. So it's figuring out the like strategy and the
Get your
yeah,
KPIs all in order.
yeah, getting the KPIs all there and the OKRs. But yeah, no, it's super interesting though. I've been doing that, launching a product for Beam that will hopefully be fully announced soon. But I've been working in that world for a bit, and yeah, it's super cool. I originally was like a producer for their art team, their UX team and designers, and kind of stumbled my way, drank from the fire hose until I became kind of a pseudo product management for months, and now I'm officially in the world and kind of going through. So it's cool. It's a change. It's really funny this year. We were talking about GDEX earlier. It was funny going to GDEX and being like, oh yeah, I'm working on these things, and I work for like this dental benefits company, which now we're Beam Benefits, and we are expanding into like ancillary lines and disability and whatever. But it was really funny because I'd talk to people and they'd be like, "Wait, you're working on this?" And like, you came from video games to that, and I was like, "Yeah, like it's really weird and exciting. Like I don't know, there's some strange stuff that
I
we're
mean,
doing."
it's just the opposite of me. I went from healthcare to games, and you
Yeah,
kind of went from games to healthcare.
a little bit.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I
it's
know
super.
Beams is not in the fully in the healthcare space anymore, but that's what um, their antecedent was. You know.
Yeah. It was a bunch of engineers who made a smart toothbrush and went, hey, health insurance companies, you should buy this. And when they didn't, they said, fine, we'll become our own. Like,
Yep.
Which I really like that. And it's fun talking to like the founders of that company and just being like, yep, like trading like the fun stories of startup world. But yeah, it's really funny, like kind of being in a big change. And you talk to a lot of people as I've shifted from, you know, when I left Multivarious, we were a team of 4, I think. Shifting up to this company, and like, yeah, this is cool, like this is really interesting and there's some cool stuff happening. And then everybody else is like, yeah, this was a risk for me, like I came from a Fortune 500 company. I'm like, I think I would die at one of those. um
Yeah.
yeah. So it's super cool. But yeah, still keeping the project management stuff alive. My game design senses have moved to Magic the Gathering, which is terrifying and super expensive.
Oh,
Yep.
don't you falling in the hole?
Oh, I fell in the hole. It's bad. Shane from
I
Extra
sold
Life
all my
brought me down.
cards.
Did you?
Yeah, I'm trying to get
Nice.
Shane on the show here too. Yeah, I
Nice.
sold all my cards last year. I made some good money. I mean, I
Yeah.
had a couple cards. I had like dual lands and stuff that were selling for $500-600 a card,
Damn.
and
Nice.
so yeah, I made a pretty decent amount of money. Paid off some debts with it. Uh, yeah, I only have one. I have one regret, which is I sold my Chrono Trigger and my Super Mario RPG
You
boxes,
fool.
and I'm just kind of like, ugh, I know, but dude, they paid good money for them. Good
Yeah, I
money.
believe it.
Um, I've got this
Yeah.
Mac here that I'm trying to sell, but I kind of am debating if I just want to like keep it's the old aluminum one, and I'm like, should I just keep the aluminum side plate because it's just so cool? I don't
Yeah.
want to take it off. House is
I
a
see.
mess. You can't see it with the mushroom world, but like since I'm moving, everything behind here is just boxes upon boxes.
Yeah. I remember when I moved into this place and I had the blurred background from like Google, and I'd jump into meetings and everybody be like, "Oh, hey, you got like a really nice background. It's nice and blurred." And I'd unblur it, and there's just a bunch of crap behind me because I hadn't unpacked yet. I'm like, "Yeah, I should probably be like one of the ads for these like systems because this is great." I see.
Yeah,
I
here.
see. Kyle in
I
the
don't know.
chat. Oh no! Now
Oh
you just
nope.
disappeared. You're gone forever.
Oh wow, this thing's like perfectly like
Yeah, it's like the
uh
invisibility cloak. There you
there
go.
we go. That you can kind of see it. But anyway, it's the side of the thing, but
Yeah, I
um
see. I see Kyle in the chat. We played Magic together at GDEX last year. We did a draft together. He did pretty cool. We worked on a deck. Are you still playing?
dude, it's funny. Yeah, I mean Kyle's still in here. Yeah, it's funny how stuff comes back around,
Yeah,
and just yeah.
yeah. It finally got me in. Shane had been trying to get me into Magic for years, because he used to say it was like golf for nerds. He's like, yeah, you just go to a convention and like you talk business over like a game of Magic instead of like over a game of golf. And it's really funny, like, you know, you go to some of these conventions and we're like playing Magic and like kind of networking with people around us. It's like, oh yeah, like we met a charity that way, like got close to the people who run the Magic events at Origins that way. Like it's really interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me it was really cool, because like it keeps that game design portion of my brain that I don't get to use much anymore still running, where it's like, oh hey, I see this really dumb idea for a card and that gives me a cool idea for a deck, so like let's try to, you know, build it and play test it. And I've got way too many like commander decks for somebody who I don't think I've played any of my commander decks that I've built, but I just like building them because it's a fun game design thing.
Yeah. Yeah, Jeremy does every time the Magic Online does like a new season or league,
Yeah.
whatever it is, where they release the new expansions. He plays for like a week or two, collects enough cards to like get like a printed. If you do a full deck, they'll
Yeah,
send
yeah,
you a
yeah.
printout or whatever, and then he shuts it down. He's like, okay, I got to walk away because it just
Yep.
eats too much time and money.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I see Kyle.
but
Kyle was talking about playing on the arena, the app.
yeah,
But yeah, that's dangerous, man. Like that's I got into it when they had a set that came out. Also, just some of the sets that they've been doing recently are really cool. Like they had, so what got me in was a D&D set because I'm like, yeah, god damn it, I'll play for D&D. And then there was a werewolves and witches set which was cool but didn't really hook me. And then there was a vampire wedding set which was really cool. That one was like when I kind of really fell into it. And then they
you did.
just did a cyberpunk like Japan one, and like the
Okay.
art of that set. Yeah, that one got me. That one was
So
cool.
I still have I still have the Bob Ross special edition Magic cards. So I
Oh, do
still got
you?
those. Yeah, I have a pack of the normal and a pack of the foils.
Nice.
Um,
When did you get those?
geez, I think they went on sale like maybe a year and a half or 2 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. Did you were just like Bob Ross, why not? Or
Yeah,
yeah.
I just bought them, and that I bought I haven't opened them or anything. They're just sitting down in my bed. I saw them yesterday when I was cleaning some stuff. I was like, oh yeah, Bob Ross Magic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, those are cool. They did Bob, and they've been doing cool like crossovers like that too. So they did like Bob Ross, that was a secret layer. They did one for Stranger Things, which I've got. They just did one for Fortnite, which was weird. And Street
Okay.
Fighter had one, which was really interesting. For the Vampire Wedding set, they had Dracula. So they made card art based off of like Bram Stoker's Dracula, and like, hey, this card is actually Dracula now, and this is the Three Weird Sisters, or here's Castle Dracula. And yeah, it's cool, some of the crossover stuff they're doing. They did Godzilla in the past, which was crazy. So I've got like a Godzilla card and like a baby Godzilla playmat. Um, but yeah, so that's brought me down the hole recently. It's bad.
All right.
Keep
Well,
that
I
game
feel
design live.
we're getting tight on time. I feel like Baby Godzilla is uh, maybe a place to stop.
Yeah,
Um,
I think so.
but yeah, anything else you want to chat about? I appreciate you being on the show, man. I'm glad things are going well.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's just good to catch up. Good to be here. Good to
You
chat
missed
with some old
bowling, man.
friends.
Bowling was a blast.
Yeah, I am sad I missed that. I forget why I couldn't make it, but yeah, there
I
was
think you
something
were
going on during that
or
time.
out of town or something,
Something like that, yeah.
um, but yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was Lucas's suggestion. That was a good time. So,
Nice.
um, all
Shout
right.
out to
Well,
Lucas.
we'll wrap up here. Cody, thank you for being on the show.
Yeah.
This has been the Volpe Create Show, the weekly talk show about gaming and creative technology. You can watch us every week, Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, twitch.tv/Volpe Creates. You can also join the Discord at volpecreates.com/Discord if you want to join and hang out. We have our game club on there and some other fun stuff. So on behalf of myself, Chris, Pumpkin, Baby, Mr. Lucas, thank you all for watching, and we will see you next week.